If you've been carrying a lot, performing fine, and privately wondering why you can't fully exhale, you're in the right place. Today's conversation is going to land in not just the space, but your body and not just your mind. So, welcome back to the Awakening Potential Show. I'm your guest, I'm your host.
You're one or the other.
So I'm your host, Karen Rudolph, and this is where the ordinary softens and the extraordinary is allowed to emerge. And the show is carried a lot. We've learned a lot, and we quietly know that there's so much more not to do, but more to remember. So we're here to awaken the potential within you and live that embodied wisdom with conversations that really meet life where it actually is. This is where sassy confidence meets classy wisdom, and that bold, badassy brilliance gets expressed unapologetically. So take a deep breath. I'm so excited to share today's guest with all of you, Jackie Woodside. She's a coach, speaker, trainer who shares content which is focused on conscious living, personal growth, and real life transformation. So give a warm welcome to Jackie Woodside. Jackie, thank you so much for being here and taking the time to be with us today. It's exciting
Yeah,
to have you.
thank you, Karen, and congratulations on your success and on this show. I've listened to a few episodes, and it's just really such a nice contribution to our world where people can have a place to go to have that place of respite and inspiration all at the same time. So it's really lovely to be here with you.
Oh, thank you. I so appreciate that. It's totally from the heart. Everything I do is really heart-centered, heart-based, and having people similarly aligned with who I am and what I do just really enlivens me because I know there's so much more that we could be sharing out there in the world and doing just by being ourselves authentically. So, one of the things I like to ask before we even start, pretty much, Jackie, is going back in time. When you were young, was there something that occurred for you that really aligned with who you've become today?
That's an interesting question. I guess I would say all of it, right? But I would say that my early life was marked by quite remarkable tragedy in my family. I grew up in a very small town. And I'm going to tell you a story that's not related to the tragedy, and then I'll back up. But when I was in graduate school in the Boston area, I'm from a very rural town in upstate New York, okay? And we call that area the North Country. And other people in New York call upstate like Poughkeepsie, which is just north of New York City, right? So I was in graduate school and I was at my internship and I met this gal and we were just chatting, and she said, "Oh, where are you from?" And I said, "Oh, I'm from upstate New York. Where?" And I was like, "No, I'm from the," in her eyes, she's like, "I'm from the North Country." Really? So it turns out she was from the town that my dad grew up in. And my dad died when I was very young. And so she's like, "Oh my, what's your last name?" And I said, "Oh, Woodside." And she heard my last name and her face dropped. And she looked at me and I immediately knew what was going through her head. And she said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I said, "Oh, thank you. That was a long time ago." So that was 40 years after the tragedy. But how iconic it was is that it's the minute she heard my last name, that's what stuck with her. So the tragedy, as I mentioned, my dad died when I was very young. He died in a car accident. 3 months later, his brother, my uncle, in a car accident. And
Mm.
6 months after that, their father, my grandfather, died in a car accident.
Oh
So
gosh.
my grandmother lost two sons and her husband all within 9 months.
Oh.
And it's, as that's kind of what my family was known for. This family that survived a series of really horrific, horrific tragedies. So, how does that, I became, who knows, right? I just popped out of the womb empathic and sensitive and caring and a little bit of a frayed nervous system. Maybe that's how I entered life. But yeah, I am the needs of other people. I am highly empathic, highly energetically sensitive.
Mm.
And who knows, either that was born to carry in this life as a blessing, or certainly I was around 2 years old when they all happened, between 2 and 3 years old when they all happened, and I became very empathically attuned to other people and to energy and to life.
Well, do you believe, Jackie, that everybody has that? I call that a gift because I am as well. But do you believe everybody might have that gift, or
Of
is it?
being empathically attuned? Oh
Yeah.
God, no. I do not believe that. I mean, maybe it's in, but no, no, I don't. So again, just by way of background, I was a clinical worker for 30 years. And in
Mhm.
that capacity, I worked in prison systems. I offenders. Um, I worked with highly narcissistic. I worked with murderers. I worked with, I ran in psychiatric unit for many years. So my experience of being with human beings across the continuum, and now as a speaker and coach, I've worked with, billionaires and multi across the globe and across the world. Not see evidence that either if everyone is born with it, something happens that they lose that connection,
Yeah.
or it's a gift. Like could I that Picasso did? Could I do music the way that who's the pianist? I'm not those things. I think some of us come in with certain gifts. When I perhaps came in with a gift of being empathically attuned to other people, but no, in working with a wide swath of humanity, I have not seen that everyone has that gift. No.
Interesting. Okay. No, I was just because I know coming from a nursing background,
Oh,
and
nice. So you were a nurse. I
yeah,
was a social worker. We almost the whole clinical team here.
it was just something that I don't know. As a child, I just felt it, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to
Well,
articulate it by any stretch. And of course, going into nursing, I mean, you just
right. I mean, so we were drawn to professions where we got to draw on that gift,
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So, what life got for you as a child, growing through life? What was the first whisper that told you something needed to change?
That's something in me or the world.
Change in general, whatever speaks to
Oh
you.
gosh. Um, oh, that's a difficult, but again, the shared was one of many traumas. So as a very young child, I knew like, my mom's she remarried to a man who fed into both, and the violence in my family, the sexual assault in my family. I knew at a young age this isn't the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
And yeah, I'm 4 years old, and probably four and five, like praying the rosary in front of a picture of Mother Mary. I grew up very Catholic, so that's kind of what I had around me as spiritual symbols. Sitting
Right.
in front of a picture, tiny little picture, Mary, wrapping that up with tissues, taping it, and giving it to my mother as a gift.
Mm.
Yeah. So I knew on that life wasn't supposed to look and feel like this.
Yeah. So, which makes me like, then who was your growing up?
Oh gosh, my grandmother. I had the most extraordinary, both of them really. But my grandma Grace Woodside and was the one who lost her husband and two sons. And you would think going through that kind of tragedy, she would kind of, whatever you depressive and withdrawn. And because my mom was widowed with three young kids, my grandmother threw herself into caring for us kids. She took her grief and really, gosh, she was amazing. She did so much in the community, involved in her at our sports games, always took us on the weekends to give my mom a break. She was amazing. And it was really interesting, Karen. She ended up getting dementia, moved away from this tiny, again, very small rural little town. My uncle took her to live near him, and then she was in a nursing home. She was out of the area for 15 years before she passed. And so when her funeral and calling hours, I was like, it'll probably be me and my aunt and uncle. There was a line of people out the door coming to pay respects to her, even though it had been 15 years and she
Amazing.
had disappeared from the air. And it was so incredibly striking to me about the impact that one person can have.
Absolutely. I love that because I believe we all can make an impact. We all have that ability to do so for sure. And moving forward, and thank you for that. Absolutely. And I honor your grandmother because it really speaks volumes of who she was. And I get how she's must have impacted not just your life, but the whole family's life.
Yeah, she was really such a stabilizing and loving
Yeah.
force. When my mom racked with tragedy, and my mom also had a child who died. I mean, just the amount in my early life was stunning. And my grandmother really was stabilizing, loving presence in the midst of all that.
Is that what got you into social work or what got
No,
you?
my other grandmother was a social worker, actually.
Okay.
And I remember a young child in the summers. Again, she would help out with my mom. She would take me back in the day did like home-based social work. I don't know, child protective, but I don't know what it was back in the day. But she would go and visit clients of hers, and she'd take me with her. And I would go on home visits with my grandmother, and then go out for ice cream. And so yeah, I don't know. I don't know what. Well, might have been. I'm fluent in American Sign language. And I was living in Boston, and saw that there were clinical social work programs with a sub-concentration on deafness, and I was fluent in language. So I was like, oh, that would be really interesting. And what an extraordinary career I had, being fluent in American Sign language. I still use it. I do a lot of executive coaching and organizational development training, leadership training in American Sign language. I've delivered keynote speeches in American Sign language, led 3 months in American Sign language. So, yeah, so I think that combination of things, I'm really looking for a place to express my very deep empathy, and then seeing that sub-concentration in social work and deafness was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, so it sounds like it was your passion, but, and I say was, you're no longer doing it, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I closed my clinical about 15 years ago to go full time into teaching, speaking, and writing my books and being on stages and doing coaching. And yeah, so I was 30 years. I've been
Uh,
a coach now for 32. I overlapped both careers by 15 years.
wow, 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 wow. You look beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Kind of
Well,
you.
well, I say that because I believe when we live our passion, it just glows. It definitely glows. And
Yeah, it's
you,
all I've
like
ever
you,
done is human beings, you know. I don't know medicine. I can't fix my car or build a house or, I don't know. I don't have talent in other areas, but I'm expert in the human condition.
I love that. So what's that one story, if you're able to share it, well, names excluded, what's that story that really touched your heart and jumped out at you through your career?
Of people that I worked with, you mean?
Yeah. Or
One that to mind, what's so interesting about it that I felt like her story kind of mimicked what happened to my mom.
mm,
When I was in private practice, a woman came to me for psychotherapy for help. Um, on the 10-year, she was a young woman. She had two middle school and a teenage daughter. Her daughter was deaf. She knew about me. She came to me on the 10-year anniversary of her husband's passing, and her life was absolutely frozen for 10 years.
mm,
Um, she had done nothing, nothing. His toothbrush were still in the bathroom. She had
yeah,
done nothing. And it's a condition in clinical called more complicated grief. And yeah, through a psychotherapy, she ended up, finally getting a new boyfriend, cleaning out I actually went to her house and helped her clean out his things, decide where she wanted to be given, and it was a process. So I think I'm thinking about my own early life trauma and how her experience so much mirrored what my mother had gone through.
yeah. There's always that one song I remember from nursing, Mrs. King. She just so impacted my life, and it was a lesson that I learned from her when don't make promises you can't keep.
Mm.
And I remember I was working in New York at Lutheran Medical Center, Brooklyn. I'll never forget that night. Oh my gosh, I was working the 3 to 11 shift. And Jackie, it was just like so real. It was almost like it happened yesterday. And I promised her, she was a cancer patient, and she had all the markings on her head for x-rays and radiation. She asked me to do something for her, and I said, yeah, I would. And I had 13 patients that night. And I just remember running around, and we didn't have computers and such. So we were writing our notes and then having to give verbal. I got home at 3 in the morning. I sat bolt upright in bed. And I remember calling the nursing saying, please tell Mrs. King I'm so sorry that, and can somebody go and support her? And they were like, Karen, she passed. That
Oh,
impacted my life for life, because in that moment I told myself, never make a promise you can't keep. And I
wow.
never have ever since. And we all have some sort of something along that line, where it impacts us so I'm on the bed. I can't gee, just me, that goes through that. But yet it expands us, and it'll spiral up to
Yeah,
another space of being. So
yeah, another level of consciousness for sure.
exactly, exactly. So was that story just supported us with your expansion, or was there something even greater?
I think I've had, so I
Yeah.
shared a bit of my childhood trauma. My early, adult years were racked, violence, homelessness, flat broke, addiction, depression. I had a therapist write an article about me and it got published. Yeah. So I think for me, there are so many other turning points for me. I had gotten married. My spouse and I had been together, whatever, 5 years or so, and I relapsed into addiction.
Mm.
And we, really clear we were going to stay together. And my spouse sat me down and said, I absolutely love you. I see you. I'm committed to this marriage. And if you choose addiction over our marriage, that's your choice. But I
Mm.
can't live this way. You really have to choose. And it's so interesting. I so appreciated her clarity of like I had a choice. So since then, we of course we often say I love you, but we also say I choose you
I love that.
as part of our marriage. So that was in I've been free of depression now for about 17 years.
Love that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's the key. If you've listened to our other podcasts, and I always say towards the end, the bridge from ordinary to extraordinary is built with small steps and leaps of faith. And what I just heard in that was the choice is the
Yeah,
bridge from ordinary to extraordinary.
right.
That's
I had to say, by the grace of God,
yeah,
am I going to repeat patterns that I had repeated from, I mean, I started addictive behavior young, probably 12-year-old, and that all the way into my mid 30s. And I knew what those patterns looked like. I knew what those cycles looked like. And I didn't know the other side of that. So I had to choose the familiar, and I knew what that life was going to look like, or the unknown. And it
yeah.
was the hardest thing I'd ever done. But one day at a time, by the grace of God, with lots of meetings and lots of therapy and my involvement in the Unity Church, involvement with Landmark Education Corporation, it was a lot of arms, of shelves, a lot of places where I had to put myself in church basements and humble situations, church for 12-step meetings for people who don't know. Going to volunteer at my church. I did, at one point, that story about one with my spouse, my recovery was like a full-time job. I was going to individual therapy, couples therapy, 12-step meetings, going to church, doing things at Landmark Education. I was like, it was a full-time job to keep me
It is.
on track. And now it's not, now this. I look back at that person and I literally do not recognize that person any longer.
I was just having that conversation with somebody recently. It's like, I don't know about you, but our paths are very similar. We have a lot in common. We'll have to catch up at another time. I remember now, like moving forward, I had a conversation with a girlfriend yesterday, as a matter of fact. It's like I don't tend to look backwards, but occasionally when I do, who is that person? I don't recognize that longer. So, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for they were tough going through. For the listening audience, what would you say to for those who don't know what they don't know, patterns? What's something that they can do to support themselves in identifying the patterns, if at all possible?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to do. I'll say if they're all very simple. I would say is journaling and pay attention to what's rumbling in your head.
Yeah.
So that's number one is prayer. Really engaging your higher self, your higher mind, your God self as I write my prayers, conversations with God. And anyone can do this. You asked me before, do I think anyone has that gift of being an empath and energetically attuned? And I said, no. I do believe anyone has the ability to access the higher realms of consciousness, their God self, their guides, by simply quieting the mind,
Yeah.
just doing some deep breathing, quieting the mind, and writing the questions that are vexing you, guidance, trusting that you will, and then writing. It's like this automatic writing, and it's not my thoughts. I'm like, damn, that's good. Where'd that come? So that's the second one. And the third one, and I'll stop here. I don't, I looks like I would find some 12-step program and go through the 12 steps. Like everyone has an addiction, even if you don't have a substance addiction, even if you're not addicted to porn or to, all the things people get into, everyone is addicted to the ego, to their perception, to being right, to getting their way, to not wanting the way that you think as possibly not correct. Like the way that you think is just the way you think. It's not the truth. Your thoughts are not the truth.
absolutely.
And going through the 12-step process, you can go to anyone. There's a new one I just heard about called Families Anonymous for members and parents of people who are failure to launch, or act in addiction, mostly parents of young adults. There's Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous. It's not just for drugs and alcohol. Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, of Incest Anonymous. There is an anonymous for everything. Find one. Codependence Anonymous. Anybody could go to Codependence Anonymous. But the power of being in a community where people are committed to transcending the way that they currently think, feel, see, and live, I think is just profound. And it was an enormous part of my healing journey. So, identify yourself in some program, in some 12-step movement, or read the 12 steps. It is a process and a program of spiritual self-empowerment, and it's profound in its
It
impact.
was profound. When I was going through my challenges back in the day, somebody had gifted me the book. Actually, they didn't gift it, they left it. Never any coincidences in life.
Right.
I'm like, I'm not an alcoholic. What did it, that's where my mind went in the day. But I remember looking through it and saying, wow, this is up there with like personal growth development. This is awesome.
It's a profound process. I get the impact of being a member, active congregant and member and board in a unity faith tradition, the unity movement or centers for spiritual living. Any of new thought, spiritual traditions for me was incredibly impactful and powerful and shoring me up, giving me love, giving me support, and giving me hope and inspiration that I could, in fact, change.
Absolutely. Our paths are so similar.
Oh, nice,
I'm like,
nice.
I'm seeing the mirror here.
No coincidence that we're
Every
on this platform together.
coincidences. It's so ironic. It's not ironic, but it's so I love connections. Part of the reason why, because I do see myself in others, but this is like, yeah, been there.
Right.
It's been a journey. Life is not always easy. And I believe when we choose to face it, we expand onto so many different levels that life becomes profound, and I get to meet and speak to some pretty amazing people. So I'm grateful. So, moving forward, you're now a coach and executive coach, and you're in a movie coming up.
I am. I am. I'm actually just a cast member, but
Yes.
founder, really. So I wrote a book called Money Vibe, and the film title is Your Money Vibes, and loosely based on the work in my book about energy, vibration, and consciousness, that your vibe, your consciousness is the creative pattern, and that we have a vibe about everything. You have a vibe about money. And when you understand that it is your vibratory pattern of consciousness, what you believe, how you feel about money that creates the attractor or repellent pattern between you and money, then you literally have the key to the kingdom. Again, I went from broken homeless to multiple figure assets and 3 waterfront homes by using these principles. So my life is a testament of it. I didn't just write the philosophy, but I have lived it from, really going from absolutely flat broke to where I am today. So the movie is coming out now. It's February 2026. It's launching our first upcoming live event, May 8th in West Palm Beach, at West Palm Beach Marriott at the Body Expo is the name of it in West
Yeah.
Palm Beach. So, and then we'll be doing other screenings in LA, and I'm looking to get distribution on hopefully Netflix and Apple and as many distribution sites as we can. And yeah, it's exciting. I've never done this before. I'm working with a wonderful film producer director Daniel Rechnitzer, and he and I really have been behind this. And we've got a cast of Bruce Lipton, Joe Vitale, Marissa Peer, Marie Diamond, Sister Jenna, Michael Beckwith, Dawson Church, Coot Blackson, and a host of other lovely, lovely. Oh, Marcy Shimoff, Lynn Twist from The Soul of Money. She wrote the book called The Soul of Money. She was Marcy Shimoff, Happy for No Reason, author of Happy for No Reason, New York
Yeah.
Times bestseller. So anyway, it's a wonderful cast. It's a wonderful film, and you can find it at yourmoneyvibes.com. So I hope people will go and check that out. But yes, and Karen, I hope to meet you when I'm down in Florida launching the film.
Yes, if I'm around, I will definitely come across from that because I know exactly. I want to say Bruce Starr is running the
Yeah,
X,
Bruce Starr.
in fact,
Yeah.
both of which and Bruce have been on the Awakening Potential show.
Oh,
Yeah, so
Nice.
we're running in the same circles. And
Marissa Peer is flying in from Dubai to speak live at the event, and she'll be doing a workshop. So I want your listeners to know that she's coming in for it. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, keep us posted with the link. All of Jackie's show notes will, information will be in the show notes, as well as you have a gift for everybody. Tell us about
yeah,
your
I
ebook that you're going
do.
to be.
Yeah, I do have a gift for people. So I wrote an allegorical story called Secrets to a Meaningful Life. And it's an ebook that kind of walks people through their if you will, move from a sort of looking outside for that sense of satisfaction to the journey within. And it's beautifully graphically designed. So it's not just a lovely, inspirational, wisdom-oriented story, but it's also beautiful to look at. So it's called Secrets of a Meaningful Life. And I hope people will check that out as well as checking out the film.
Absolutely. Oh my God, yeah, it's so much excitement. We we're so
Very
I
Karen.
really want to meet you.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to have dinner or something when you come
Yeah,
over.
yeah, absolutely. Um, 3.5 hours across for me
Oh,
journey, and I was at last and spoke on stage at
yeah, I
Bruce's.
was going to say you should be speaking at it.
I was speaking last
Yeah,
year on
last year. Okay.
well, this year rather. Sorry, this year. I'm thinking into, well, no, it's last
25. You spoke.
2026.
Yeah,
Yeah, so last year I was speaking on stage because we have the movie Manifestation,
yeah.
and I too am an executive producer for that one as well. And
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
that's what I'm saying. We have so much in common. It's great.
Wow, that's
So I
fantastic.
definitely want to connect with you and play. Let's play.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Never a coincidence. I will definitely thank Daniel Fuss as well. Uh, I always like to, I want to say end because I feel like you and I are going to be for a while, but
Right.
end the podcast with asking my guests, like I call them pearls of wisdom. What the one pearl of wisdom that you want to share with the listening audience that's going to make a difference in their awakening?
Sure. I'll share with your listeners something that I've said to my poor son. Gave his life since he was 2 years old. Poor kid. The most important thing that you will ever learn is how to manage your world of belief, emotion, attitude, and thought, because it is that inner world that creates your outer world of decisions and behaviors and outcomes. So, in our world today, most people focus on outcomes. Sometimes steps, and if you don't master your inner world of consciousness, can have the best strategies and the best actions, and they will not be to fruition if you're not in the right vibratory pattern and frequency. So, the most important thing you'll ever learn is how to master your inner world of belief, emotion, attitudes, and thoughts.
Love it. Love it.
That spells beat, by the way. Your beat creates your emotions, attitudes, and thoughts. It's an acronym. Or beat. Your beat creates your vibe that creates your life.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Is there anything else that you'd like to share we part today?
Wherever you are in your life, you've heard some of my stories, and what I share is I did go from hot mess to blessed, domestic to now the happiest married person that I know. With that, I told that story about. We've been together for 26 years. So no matter where you are, no matter how ugly it looks, I just really want people to miracles abound. I teach a program called Living in the Domain of Miracles. And I
Mm.
feel like that's what I've learned is how to shape shift my consciousness so that I meet life at a frequency. When you meet life at a higher vibration, higher level of frequency, life itself changes and transforms. So I don't care where you are today, what difficulties you're facing, how challenged you feel, hope of a new day and a new life is always there.
What a great reminder that wisdom doesn't come from having it all figured out,
Yeah.
rather from the willingness to listen to what life is speaking. And you definitely listened to what life was speaking. It's just listening to your journey. I really got, how you've transformed your life into,
Yeah.
and it's possible for anybody. Yeah, like we said earlier, I mean, I don't recognize myself. You said yourself from who you are, of the choices we make.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, it's such an honor to be with you, Karen, and I really hope that I touched your listeners and given that sense of hope and inspiration. But I really want to thank you for just this beautiful space that you're providing to our world. I'm just so honored and grateful to be a part of what you're doing. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for seeing me. I really appreciate it, Jackie Woodside. Thank you for your honesty, your heart, and your willingness to share ups and downs and being authentic and vulnerable and really to make the difference to the listening audience. And your story is a powerful reminder that transformation doesn't happen all at once. It begins the moment we become aware and continues with those brave, bold, badass choices that we make along the way. So, for everybody listening, remember this: the bridge from ordinary to extraordinary is built with small steps of change and big leaps of faith. So, the more powerful you know you are, you are more powerful than you are. Keep showing up, rising, and keep awakening your potential because you're worth it. So, if this conversation today inspired you in any way, shape, or form, reach out to Jackie Woodside. Her information will be in the contact information in the show summary notes. If you would like to reach out to me as well, DM me the word bridge, and I'll send you any information that you're looking for. But the one who answers you, you'll get me. So, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay sassy, stay classy, and keep being your bold, badassy self. Till next time, bye for now.